Eddie Howe's time at Newcastle appears to be over. According to multiple reports, Eddie Howe is stepping down as Newcastle head coach after 5 seasons in charge, and Howe is expected to take a break from coaching. So he helped Newcastle to lead to a Carabao Cup title in 2025, but the Magpies struggled to a 12th place finish last season. Al Ahly's German coach Matthias Jaissle is reportedly set to be hired as Howe's replacement. So, Tom, are you surprised to see this happen now? I mean, we're only just under 2 weeks away from just over 2 weeks away from the start of the season.
Yeah, I'm very surprised at the timing, particularly that there were serious talks with ownership and with the structure of the club, the leadership of the club at the end of last season about whether Eddie Howe would continue, whether it be his choice, whether it be ownership or the board's choice. And they came away from those meetings saying that things need to improve, but we're backing you, he's backing the club. And over the summer, I guess that's changed in his mind. According to David Ornstein, he said he wants to take a break from football. There's been some reports, though, in Newcastle that maybe he's not thrilled with the state of the squad and where things stand. So last summer, they lose Alexander Isak. They had a really difficult time replacing him, and a number of targets, including Ugo Ekitike and others, didn't come in. They kind of panic buy at the end of the window to get Nick Voltemade. This summer, they lose Sandro Tonali. They lose Anthony Gordon. They look likely to lose Bruno Guimaraes, which may have been the last straw in this. So I'm sure that there's more to come from this story. But, Hannah, to your point, the timing is pretty shocking because of, if this was going to happen, you figured it would have happened 4 to 6 weeks ago. But it's happening now, and at least they have a replacement lined up. But their issues in the transfer window, in the transfer market, aren't going to be solved by new manager. It's not as if Eddie Howe had any real control over that or he was to blame for anything. And I'm not even blaming the club. They're doing their best. They keep on getting left at the altar by number of signings. Ekitike was one. Manzambi was another. And then now Arsenal are pushing again for Guimaraes. And I think at some point, Eddie Howe was like, I can't do it.
The timing of it all, no, Tone? It feels like...
Seems weird, yeah.
You lose a lot of these players. Maybe there was and I'm just speculating here, but going into the preseason, perhaps Eddie Howe went up to the owners and said, hey, I'm losing all these players. What are we doing? We're not replacing this. Happened to us last season. We're going to be even worse off this season.
Yeah, you're a year and a half, really, from winning a Carabao Cup, right? I think it was first trophy in, over 70 years. And 3 seasons away from finishing in the top 4 in the Premier League. So getting this team to Champions League, a lot of, there's a lot of big excitement, but I think the player loss is probably far too much. And the player loss, and if you remember the Isak loss, and it was not just a loss of a player it was a saga. It was going on for a while, and that just drains you at the beginning of the season, right? And I mean, we just did those numbers. What was the Premier League number of average term of managers?
A year and 3 months.
This is a long term, 5 years, right?
5 years.
Yeah, it's more than double of what the average is in the Premier League. Just goes to show the stress of the job. None of it's easy.
Just think about it in a bigger picture, right? He has left Newcastle in a far better state than which he found it. It's an extraordinary job from Eddie Howe, right? And managing all of the stuff that you need to manage, it gets complicated when a club like Newcastle, when you bring them back to the glory days and then you get more important players with bigger egos. It was scandalous what happened last summer. And he had to navigate the ship through very turbulent waters, and, what ended up happening. He had to deal with a very young manager, the balancing act of European football and domestic football. That did him in the first time around. I think it was very difficult. He was demanded a very heavy lift. And for what he had at his disposal, he gave Newcastle fans that moment of glory that they've been desperate for almost a century. And I think if, at the end of the day, we feel like Eddie Howe set a very strong foundation for what's to come with this Newcastle ownership, you can only see this as a success, despite what you can call a crash out towards the end.
Yeah, it's just over 3 weeks away from the start of the season. How do you think some of the players are feeling? He's been there for 5 years, and I'm sure a lot of them have good relationships with him.
Yeah, this is tough at this time of year, right? Because you got an identity under Eddie Howe, right? And you've brought a couple new guys in, but the majority of the group has been there, so you have an idea. Now you're going to bring someone completely different in, and now you have I don't know if it's going to be a new identity. I don't know much about the manager, right? The new manager coming in and how he wants to play and what it's going to look like. I assume there's some similarity. They're not going to make a huge change. But I think what we thought probably 5 years ago was the takeover of the team, somewhere around there. You know, richest club in the world. We thought that there was going to be like this massive spending, and then we saw Tonali come in. I think Tonali was like 70 or 75 million, and we thought that was the start of this cycle. And it's been now just more guys out the door than in the door here recently, and I think that's probably the frustration.
And they're reportedly going to bring in Matthias Jaissle, his German coach from Al Ahly.
From Ali, but he was at Red
Salzburg?
Bull, right? Salzburg before.
Do we know much about him?
Did he
Well, in that
take
system-
over after Pep Lijnders
Before.
or before? And then Pep Lijnders, he leaves and Pep Lijnders comes in.
If you're in the Red Bull family, you're inherently a pressing manager, right? It's high tempo pressing. That's what the club is built around. I'm assuming at least that is in his tenure there, he would have had to have that as one of his qualities.
Could we make up a little checklist for him now? Off the top of your head, what he would
Bring
need to
players
do?
in.
Yeah.
Number one.
So he's got a big project to work on.
Yeah.
I think it starts with the locker room, first and foremost, before you even start building the foundation to your tactics, because Eddie Howe, I don't know how long preseason has been open. It's been several weeks. So you're preparing and how dictated and fine-tuned not just the training sessions are, but the load bearing for running and building players up towards the season. The tactical principles are always reinforced at the beginning of preseason, and everything is slowly built upon. And the messaging is always, this is what we're building towards. This is why we do the 2-day sessions. This is why you're doing fitness right now. And that's as the team is coming together. And now, 3 weeks before the season starts, it's a new manager coming in. So first and foremost, you got to go into the locker room, get the players on your side, show them what your plan is, what you want to do, and then you start building from there, because I think that is equally as important, if not more important, than the tactics, particularly in the very short term.
And he's a young manager also, relatively inexperienced. Obviously, in the Prem, he has no experience. Yeah, okay, listen, at Al Ahly, he won a decent amount. He won back-to-back Champions Leagues. It's the same ownership, right? It's a public investment fund from Saudi Arabia. So they grabbed arguably their best performing manager and moved him to their best performing asset, if you will. I think he has a lot to prove.
Yes.
Just from a credibility perspective, a young manager in Saudi Arabia walks into a Premier League dressing room. To a certain degree, it's broken. To a certain degree, it's coming together. Just from a man management perspective, you have to walk in there and act the part to show that you're the guy to take over for the most successful tenure in Newcastle's modern history, right?
And he won trophies at both Salzburg and Al Ahly. I'm not taking anything away from that. But the style of soccer can change, because at Salzburg, you are overwhelmingly the best team in that division. And it is usually not particularly close. Sometimes it is. They are viewed as, with the money that they spend, the players that they bring in, yes, it's a lot of young players, but it's players that fit the system, players that they want to bring elsewhere. They want to bring to Leipzig and elsewhere in Europe. Al Ahly, it's competitive towards the top of Saudi Arabia, but you probably have a talent advantage there. You were never overmatched. At Newcastle in the Premier League, they have a solid squad. They've got good pieces. They need to maximize what they have and add a bit, even though they're losing players. But they're going to play Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City, Tottenham even. And you're going to look and be, who has more talent? So what does this manager do at a different job where I'm not saying that he can't be successful, but it's going to be something different than what he's had at his two major stops in his career.
I think you go in initially and you lean on, you make it simple and you lean on the experienced guys, right? You got like the Dan Burns. You got Bruno Guimaraes. You got like a Joel Linton, excuse me, in the side. So you lean on those guys and you get them on your side first, and you hope that kind of spreads wings, right? But clearly the guy knows what he's doing, right? He knows how to manage. He knows how to put ideas together. You don't win titles anywhere if you don't have an idea of what you're trying to do. I don't care what league you're in. You just have to maybe refine it if you're not playing with the same pieces, right, of the puzzle. You're not you don't have the best pieces on your team right now. So this will be a good challenge for him.
Okay, then everyone. So Newcastle's first game is against Liverpool. So it'll be new manager versus new manager. At Newcastle.
Nice.
Yeah. That's a hard ground to go to as well. That is an advantage, I think.
It's one of my bucket lists. St. James's Park has been on my bucket list for a long time. I haven't been there.
Yeah.